We are now live.
Well, hello.
Hello, everybody. We're live.
Welcome to another week of hopefully interconnected madness.
Yeah. What the fuck was that, Jax?
Well,
the fuck?
that was me forgetting to mute my phone and you getting my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ringtone going off there.
Total power. I'm just running around on Dragon's Dogma at the minute. So, the first thing we're going to discuss is, well, the titular title of this episode, I will think. The Goblin Queen. The fucking very first, this third episode of X-Men the 97.
Oh, I thought you meant the adult entertainment movie from 1992.
I don't know, we don't need to know about things you watch that gobble.
But no, X-Men 97 hitting it out the park again for a third episode.
The fucking... Also, Beast's Bedside Manor. The start of the episode. I know we're all friends and all, but Jean, but this is the real Jean, you're the fake Jean. You couldn't have told her that in private? You just tell that in front of every fucker in the room?
Oh, yeah. Literally just slap the woman in the face that's just had a baby. Don't worry about that. And this won't cause emotional scarring at all to everyone.
A lot of people have been noting that without the whole going to Brimstone and stuff, and the Brimstone and the Goblin showing up, where did she get the name? But I have a feeling in this one, I think it's because it's the name Sinister probably implanted in her.
Oh, I do, but I believe there is a bit later on where he's showing her origin, and he does say something like "Rise, my Goblin Queen" or "Rise, my Queen." So yes, I assume it is part of the inlaid memory there.
Yeah, it's the trigger code word basically it has to trigger her. That's probably what it is. It's her, like the trigger word for like if she's because she's essentially a sleeper agent from Sinister. That's the whole point of her in the.
And once again, it's gonna be a fantastic episode anyway when Sinister appears.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got so much to talk. I've got a few things to say on this one about
This
certain
episode
characters.
This episode was so good. The fact that oh, by the way, you have to admit something. By the way, Jax, at this point,
I do. I have to admit that I did allow you, my friend, to be right on this occasion about which one was the real Jean.
I mean, I told you. She fainted immediately. Clearly, that was the real Jean.
You know what? I saw it. Like I said, I see it. I understand your logic, but I was like, that'd be way too easy.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought also, it's not too easy. I thought that'd be the great fake out, and I thought they would just change up the story just a little bit. And no, I was wrong. You were right, 100%. And I'm happy I allowed you to have that moment.
Oh yeah, I think I am so happy it was Madeline Pryor. We got Madeline Pryor, and we got the birth of one. Finally got the birth of a character from the original series that shows up every so often.
We did, and I really, because of how certain things I thought was either going to get. I thought it was going to be Jean, to be honest, and I thought and the baby we were going to have was going to be either Nathan Summers or even Hope Summers.
Well, Nathan Summers is Cable. That's his name, Nathan Summers.
Nathan Grey, which is his alternate version.
Oh, you mean Strife?
X-Man. No. So Strife is a version of Cable. Cable as Cable. So there is a version of him that was never taken into the future, never given the technovirus, and lived out to be a very, very powerful psychic, just like his mother. His code name was X-Man.
X-Man.
Very, very well.
No. I'm an X-Man. But that episode, the whole playing on all the characters' fears was so well done. And also deeply disturbing the animation they went with for some of the shit that happened in that episode. The TV bit with Jubilee and Robert and Mr. Reyes.
Not only was their take on the Ring incredibly good there.
Oh yeah.
Did you notice how? I mean, did you notice what happened to that thing that came through the TV after Jubilee hit with a plasma strike? Because I saw its brains and organs. Just double check that one again and look. It was carved in two.
Yep.
and its brains and organs were just sitting there.
And then it thingied and turned into like a weird demented version of his mother. It was so well done. Like the whole Magneto and Rogue in the for Remy,
I liked how that started off as well, where they were trying to see when the next free time when the danger room was available, and the danger room kept flickering to just say
Rogue and
Magneto.
Magneto. It's just...
Did you know on one of them it had a 12-hour session? So
well, Magneto really fears that. Gambit really fears that Magneto has a lot of stamina.
heck yeah, he's definitely taking some power from the poles there.
I know. And Morph's just absolute, like his nightmare was just horrific for poor Morph. Just, oh, Logan, you need some help to reach those hard to reach places there, buddy. The fact that Morph and Logan have such like an actual good friendship that they are just so comfortable with each other. Though I do find it hilarious. You can tell a lot of people, some people are getting mad at that, going, "Oh, look, they're making Wolverine gay," and I'm like, dude, the guy's like over 200 years old. That dude has probably experimented with everything at this point.
Even so, like even that's also a very good point. But then also it doesn't mean that at all. It means, like you say, they're two people that have worked incredibly closely together, and they're very, very good friends.
Oh yeah.
They
And
will
also
have entire jokes.
Oh yeah,
I do.
that and also, literally, the Wolverine's the one person that wouldn't let go of Morph in the very first episode of the show. Like he went looking for him at the end. In that, he's literally his best friend. He's the only one that Logan actually genuinely opens up to.
Yeah, and yeah, they are too. Yeah, exactly. And I don't see anything like that there. I saw two very close friends that would have to shower with each other regularly anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're a fighting force in a communal shower room,
and they're like a family as well, so they probably just don't give a shit half the time.
It's just banter between two good friends, two family members. But the thing that did get me is something people have been difficult discussing reasons and why and stuff. But the whole thing about Morph's features and face in this episode, to me, made all the sense in the world.
Oh yeah,
Since we last saw him in the original series to now, we've seen someone that has managed to cope, to get through and surpass some of the weirdest, nastiest shit that any of them have really ever faced. And he's become a new slate, as if it were. He's now a new being as that. And as soon as those memories came back, he went back to not his normal human face.
No.
He went back to that sunken-eyed, abused face. This is
that is a man that is suffering from that is a character suffering from PTSD for what happened to him in the original series. He is like. I will say this: the scene with with Goblin Queen, when that's all going down and then they get thrown into basically hell, and it's just like Morph before they get thrown to hell is Morph just going, "I know this is, it's hell." It's just like, yes, Morph, we know that you've just been thrown into the most traumatic thing of your life where Sinister's been put in front of you. The one character that like Morph can't really face. Also, that whole sequence with them starting the fight with the Goblin Queen. There is an ogre in front of me.
One of the things I found incredibly funny, I liked, but I couldn't work out what the fear would have been. Beast, when the thing just opens up in a lift and he's like, one of us is on the wrong floor.
I think it's because Beast. I don't think Beast really has much fear because of the way he is. If you know what I mean.
There is a kind of truth to that, I guess. And they would just end, and maybe the only thing they could give him was something that might be scary. But it was, I think that Madeline Pryor could have coaxed something from his brain, even if it was him. Because one of the things he does fear is literally evolving his powers to the point where he is nothing more than a mindless beast. So yeah, there is something she could have done to him there.
Oh yeah, there is the whole losing his humanity, because Beast prides himself on his intelligence.
Yeah, and especially in the modern day comics, his modern day form is somewhat of
A villain.
a thing that plays. It plays on his mind a hell of a lot because he is a hell of a lot more bestial and animal-like now.
Yeah, but his current form is also an absolute dick because he's a villain. He's the bad guy now.
You're reading. You're reading the Hickman run, aren't you? So you're talking about where he's got. What's it called? There's a thing inside him, a parasite.
No. The Beast has become the evil version of himself. Like, he's turned into it himself, and there's a point where he makes clones of himself that are basically that he uses to basically operate everything. And it's like Beast seems to have become the Dark Beast.
Yeah.
Without the parasite, it's one of the more. I think it's one of the more up to run. Where a lot of people are complaining because Hank is now a bad guy, and I'm like, it kind of makes sense. He is slowly losing himself to his as his powers evolve. Oh god, a Geosaurian.
I can't remember what the story was,
But yeah.
and I thought I had it here.
There's a lot of it's in the modern era of the X-Men, that one.
Yeah. Yes, no, I very much like those stories anyway. Beast always does have the potential to be a very good villain.
Oh yeah, but to be fair, the whole X-Men stuff X-Men comics currently are really good always. But like that episode, the fact that we saw Magic, one of my favourite fucking X-Men characters, finally, it's like, you just do a cameo of having Magic in the show. The last time we saw, but a lot of people were, when Morph turns into Magic to the Dark Child. A lot of people going, the last time we saw Liliana, she was just a little girl, and I'm like, dude, it's been like several years, like in the actual in-universe since they met Liliana, because they meet her in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
It's been several years since then. I'm pretty sure at this point Liliana will have manifested her mutant powers and become the Dark Child, which is kind of awesome, because Magic is one of my favourite characters, because she is just an absolute badass for what she does.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just found a random issue of Ultimate X-Men issue 45, New Mutants Part 5. I don't know where the fuck that's come from. Didn't know I had that in my collection. Quite nice. But
And there's also, the Maker has remade the Ultimate Universe in a new way.
I have heard. I didn't know this. I'm so far behind Marvel. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, this is the one where Peter has actually got a happy family finally. He's got a happy family. Apparently, a lot of people are thinking that what they're going to do to end it is Peter's going to lose one of his kids.
Oh, do you know how upset fans will be if they did something to what? No, they could. If they did that, there would be an uproar. I think.
There would be an uproar. I think we need one universe where Peter gets to be fucking happy. Just let him be happy for one universe.
No, I mean, no. I think in general, because there's a lot more older readers now. If they did it, and we always know that he can never truly be. So it always has to be.
Well, no, this is the Ultimate Universe, not the mainline universe. The main Peter Parker is still getting basically fucked over repeatedly.
I completely get it. I can just imagine it going very bad for them if they did that.
So I have a feeling the Ultimate version is because the Ultimate Universe, this one, seems to be like a lot of. I think from what I've like little bits I've snippets of read and stuff, is a lot of the heroes in this universe don't have as bad lives as they do in the main one. They seems to be like the kind of a bit happier version of their lives, where things are a bit. Which I think the idea with this one is to try and make one that's a bit more aimed at still get the hardship, because it's Peter that doesn't get his powers until after he's had a family with MJ and everything already. So he's not got his powers until after he's had a family. So he's now learning to manage a family life and his new spider powers.
You know what's going to happen, don't you?
Well,
these are all going to be happy versions of our heroes that are all going to be in a good place. And then all of a sudden, at the end, it's going to be, oh, by the way, we're gonna do another series of incursions, and guess who's going to die first? The happy ones.
No, I have a feeling it'll be. I have a feeling that Peter's tragedy will probably be losing MJ in this world, and and I know people will riot, but it'll be
Or hear me out here. Hear me out here. If this rumor is true that the Deadpool film is going to all be about certain characters being anchors in their universe, and if they die, their universe dies.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't this be a great forerunner story for that kind of thing? Just before
fucking
Deadpool Wolverine comes out, all of a sudden one of their characters die, and then so does their universe. Then there's the Deadpool film. That would be a good run through. You found this lovely universe, everyone's happy. Not destined to survive because an old man at the age of 92 has a freaking stroke.
No man at
Random
the age of
old dude
92
just dies.
Random old dude just dies. Oh, that would be fucking hilarious, though. Why'd your universe die? This random old dude that no one had ever talked to died. What was his name? Steve Rogers. Just never got his powers.
Kind of, yeah.
This is fucking hilarious. Yeah. Steve dies because he's. To be fair, do you remember what creates the 1602 universe?
It was Steve Rogers going out of sync.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great story, man. I love that story. Both the What If version and the actual comic.
The What If version was quite nice, but it also was let's be honest.
They skipped a lot.
They skipped a lot, but it was like I was like watching it and I'm going, I like that you've done this universe, but can we please have an episode actually properly in this universe, please, later, because I'm kind of sad.
It's one of those ones like Marvel Zombies. It really deserves its own series because there is so much good stuff there.
Oh yeah, like Peter Parker and Iron Man being like his suit in that universe is so cool. Like legitimately, I love his suit in that universe.
Yeah, he's just this weird little artificer guy.
Yeah.
Bit of a crackpot inventor, and he's very good, very good.
Yeah, it's like I love that most of like Doc Ock in that universe is he gets his tentacles not by robotics or anything. No, he just has DNA. He just merged himself with a fucking octopus because the insanity. Because it's one of those things about it. It's like the 602 universe is so good. It is.
Yeah, it's kind of like Marvel Universe where all the powers and stuff come from some kind of D&D style mechanic. There's, there is sorcerers, and artificers, and alchemists, and they're all doing their thing. There's no one's really super strong kind of a thing or anything like that. Spider-Man isn't super strong. He's just really good at, like, say, doing parkour and street running, and has this great suit of armor. Yeah,
well, and Peter also does technically have spider powers because he does get them from a weird creature in a jar, from a spider god in a jar.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do the whole weird Ezekiel totem thing, don't they? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he gets his powers from that, but in the difference is that Peter gets his power from that, but the difference is he has the webs actually out of his hands because of it. And it's nowhere near like it is normally. It's like a lot more fucking messy and shit because it's not designed to be used as web swinging, so he has to use his agility instead.
Very good, very, very good.
Oh yeah, it's very good how they did it all in that universe. It's like this. Like the Fantastic Four, they don't get they get their powers through some alchemical accident instead of by going into space.
Yeah, it's great how they how Gaiman adapted all the characters around.
I always forget that it was Neil fucking Gaiman that made that. I always forget that it's like one of the guys that I really love because I love his episodes when he does Doctor Who. I love his episodes. I love the Sam. I actually not read the Sandman, but from whatever I've heard of it, it's really good.
Gaiman. For many reasons, I have to say this, but I also believe it is one of the best writers and creators ever. His storytelling is up there with Shakespeare, in my opinion.
I think he's the modern Shakespeare, and I think in some cases he is the modern equivalent of Shakespeare.
Just on those matters. I mean, there's a great set of stories in Sandman, all about Shakespeare and Midsummer Night's Dream. I believe it's either Midsummer Night's Dream or Twelfth Night. I can't remember which one the actual story's around. Awesome,
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. I recommend to you and to everyone read Sandman as a point of thing that you have to do. You should read War and Peace once. You should read Shakespeare at least once. You should read the great American novels at least once. You should read Sandman at least once.
It's one of those things that's like it's really good, but it's like the thing about a lot of this stuff though is that so we've gone off topic anyway. We've talked about X-Men '97 anyway. We have again, but in our defence, we're still talking about comic books and various cool comic artists and stuff. Like
we promised you we'd talk about it. We also promised you madness.
Yeah, we did promise you madness, and we did say this is a show for us to talk about our nerdy, as I put it, nerdy bullshit most of the time.
We're gonna sidetrack every now and again.
Oh yeah, but back onto the episode, the fight with Goblin Queen, and we see magic, and then we get Morph going, "I don't want to fight you, I don't want to fight you, comrade." And Goblin Queen just turning around and going, "I don't want you to fight me, I want you to fight for me." To which we get
and then we get the answer in a different form.
We get the Dark Child version of magic, the dark version of her, and I'm like, yes, you gave us the evil version of magic in the same scene. Like,
going back to what you were saying earlier means at some point they've definitely seen her turn into that form.
Yep, but also, did you notice that when Morph turns into that form, Morph doesn't is in their grey form like before they do it, and their grey form is female at that point. Which is kind of a nice little twist on it of going, hinting at what Morph is, Morph's like gender identity, without outwardly saying it. That Morph's comfortable just turning between both, and I like the way they did that. I did notice that. I was like, that actually is a good way of doing it, in a way that doesn't, sound you're pandering, if you know what I mean, to people.
Yes, no, and I mean, kind of make. See, it's the way the different powers work. In my head, between Mystique and Morph, because Morph is a full genetic change.
Yeah.
So especially if they're in that neutral form, if they're changing into the female one, I would assume it would start with that form first and then move into the next, as in like the stage of transform.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was great. Yeah, Morph is one of my favourite characters. Not my favourite. He's definitely not in the. He's not in the first tier of favourites. He's definitely in the second. Definitely the second tier of favourites. Up there. He's not my Gambit. Gambit is my favourite.
So Gambit's your favourite. Mine is the girl that got done really bad in the second episode, and well, she's my second favorite. My first favorite will forever and always be Rogue, because it's Rogue and Rogue is badass. Like, Rogue's whole story is badass. Rogue is just also fun fact that a lot of people won't realize or know, because there are a lot of us that read the comics and like grew up on the comics, that I will admit I didn't know this, because I actually have never read the comic that it's from. I did not know Rogue started out as a bad guy.
Yeah, with Mystique.
And I did not know that Rogue was actually the X-Men's enemy when they first met her. And she was basically one of those bad guys that kept kicking the shit out of all of them whenever she showed up, because they couldn't touch her. And I did not know that. I did not realize. So I knew that there was a point in the comics where Storm lost her powers, but I did not know the original comic where she loses her powers is her saving Rogue. In the comics, it's Rogue who just joined the X-Men. So they actually did a nice and a fitting parallel by having her do it to save Magneto instead of saving Rogue, because she's doing it to save this person that's trying to prove that they are now on the good guy's side. And I kind of like the fact that they did that. It was a nice way of paralleling the original comic she lost her powers in, from the same way.
Very much so. And I don't know if... I mean, here's an interesting question. Because I know the story. I don't remember if she was the villain or not at the time. Do you know who Rogue gets her super strength and flight from?
Well, technically at the time, Miss Marvel, as she's known as now, Captain Marvel.
I think she was. I don't know. Was she binary at the time? Or
No,
what?
she was
Warbird.
Miss Marvel.
She
She was Miss Marvel at the
Was she
time.
Miss Marvel?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She nearly killed her. Completely drained her to the point where the power was saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where she gets the super strength and flight from. Awesome little story there. Like I said, I can't remember why the fight was. I can't remember if it was during the villain series.
It was during the villains because it's even the animated show kept it. She was doing it as part of, with.
Yeah, I do know.
Mystique.
I do know they have a clip in her when they got in one of the episodes where they have to go through her memories.
Yeah, and find out that and find the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a fight with this dude. Hiya!
Yeah, no, there's so much so much great stuff that they're calling back to actually from those original ones. Original stories.
Oh, God, die. Nope, he died. I win.
I am and I could be a complete idiot here, and everyone knows who this character is, and I'm the only one that doesn't. At the end of this most recent episode, and I know I'm jumping a lot here, but we will go back, loop round. How? I thought it was going to be the Brood, or the Nightmare King.
Do you mean the Shadow King? That's who I think it is.
And I think it could still be, but is that owl significant?
I don't think so. No, I think the owl is just. I think what it is. It's because she's
of the owl she saw flying, but
yeah, because it keeps flying around the circle around the area. But I think what it is I think the reason it's taken the form of an owl. It's taken the form of an owl. Think about it. She's just found out at that point Forge is the one that made the gun. So she's feeling betrayed by Forge. So she goes off on the, as far as she's going off on a run, and then she suddenly falls through the roof.
Yeah. And
like she's been using her powers. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing she wanted to get back was flight, and the one thing that was flying near her was the owl. Yes, there's a lot of symbolism. Yeah. You could Yeah. So you could still be.
The reason I immediately went to the Shadow King is that when it started, first, seeing it, it was exactly how he first showed up in the episodes when he first shows up in the original episodes, where it's just red eyes and black in darkness, and I'm like, is he back? Is it time for the Shadow King to return? Because it would make sense. Charles is gone. There's no one holding him in the prison anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh shit, he can get free.
Also, to be fair, towards Storm in the comics, the Shadow King and the Brood were really our only two actual main villains, that you could definitely point to and go, they're hers. So,
also, just another reminder, the episode where we get the Brood, quote unquote, in the animated series, they're not called the Brood, and they aren't the Brood, because the Brood were deemed too scary for a children's cartoon. So that's why the weird, that's why they were able to reverse what those, but the insects did, and everything, because they couldn't, because they weren't allowed to bring the Brood into it, because they couldn't get the rights to bring them into the show.
Because to be very honest with you, I never knew who the Brood were when I first saw those set of episodes, so that was in my head. They're still canon, just weird
bug things. Yeah, because the Brood itself is actually terrifying. Compared to the ones in that episode, the Brood themselves, when they show up, I kind of want them to show up in this, get to actually see the actual Brood show up, because I think that would be pretty damn good. If you know what I mean.
Anyone that watched the Flash or Supergirl remembers the characters, the Dominators. The Dominators there, other than the majority of the look, is very similar to what you would actually get in these things.
I never watched the Flash. I didn't watch the Flash and the Flash series. I've been trying to find it, but it's not anywhere that I can watch it. And I want to watch it because I think Grant Gustin is fucking awesome as the Flash. And the Flash, surprisingly, went from being one of those characters that I didn't really give a crap about to being one of those characters I'm like, this guy's actually pretty cool. I like this character. Because it's mostly because seeing some of his comics and stuff, like, he actively cares about his villains and shit. It's like he's not he's like Batman a little bit. I've noticed that a lot with a lot of DC's like characters, even though some of them are like really overpowered and stuff. They actually give a shit about their villains.
Yes. But the Flash is he's one of those top tier favourite characters of mine, or the Flash family in general. And so within DC, it's actually very much known that both the mainline Flashes, Wally West and Barry Allen, are very sympathetic to who their villains are, and a lot of their villains do actually kind of mirror that. Weirdly enough, Mirror Master being one of his villains, but there's a character called the Trickster, and if you look up, you'll find a fantastic movie from the 90s, which Mark Hamill plays the Trickster, and then does come back and play the Trickster again in the new series, or a form of it at least. Is a character that is kind of like a third-rate Joker, but he has got psychological and bipolar issues. And after the Flash realizes this a few times in, many of the times he will actually end a fight by just having a conversation with him, talking him down, and then giving him an ice cream, and then taking him back to the psychic clinic.
Is that the one that's that he goes, you're wearing, in one of the animated shows I've scenes of him, I've seen he's like, you're wearing the suit again.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You just gotta tell yourself, why are you gonna? It's like, and the other two heroes with him are like, I think it's Hal's with him and Cyborg are like trying to ask him, aren't you gonna take him in? And he just goes, hey, can you just go back? Are you gonna go back to prison after this? Yeah, sure, no problem. And the guy just turns himself. It's like, yeah, because Flash, like, it's like Batman. Who the reason Batman sends his villains to Arkham rather than tries them to Arkham rather than Blackgate is because he knows most of his villains, if they got a bit of help, wouldn't be villains.
Well, this is where the DC fans will argue a difference here. So whereas Batman is taking these people there to
get help,
get them off the streets more than getting help. If he wanted to help them, he could. He's got the money to give them proper help. He doesn't do that.
No.
He sends them to Arkham, a place that is known to be bad. Whereas the Flashes, both Wally and Barry, are known to actually visit the ones in the institutions and even go to their court cases later on as witnesses and wishes for them. And that's why some of his quite a number of his villains actually end up being his partners in many times, or when a crime is going too badly, like oh, we're superpowered criminals, but we steal diamonds, we don't kill people. So that's when they go, do you know what, I'm ringing the Flash up on this one. Including his rogues gallery, his most villainous of villains. The ones that are always out to get him. When it gets really bad and they know they're out of their depth, they ring the Flash up.
Yeah, it's like, I need your help. Why? These guys I'm working with are kind of trying to kill everyone, and I don't kill people.
Yeah, look, Lex has gone too far this time. Like...
it's funny though, because it's like, the thing is, the other reason why, with the Batman thing is like, it's the the Batman the animated series, which is regarded as like the best version of Batman, in my opinion.
One of the best versions.
Yeah, like the amount of like the movies that we know were spawned off that series, where you have like the one where Harley becomes sane. She gets her, a sanity fine. She gets the thing marked as sane, and it's like, she's not a bad guy anymore after it. It's like she thinks that Batman's about to try and, you're gonna drive back to Arkham. Like, nope, I'm here to congratulate you, because when any of them get any of their problems like resolved, he's like, if they do actually sort themselves out, he will full well just forgive them for it. It's like, yep. And I'm like, this is the definitive Batman. Stop trying to make Batman this guy that's always moody and wants to beat everyone up. It's no. He has this thing where he does. There's a reason he doesn't kill, and the only reason he won't kill is because he knows it's not going to solve anything half the time. Yeah, it would kill them all, but if I kill them all that's going to happen is probably someone worse will take their place.
Yeah, or someone's going to come after me, and there's no point crossing the line.
Yeah.
Yes, and. There is, he especially thinking, where am I going with this? Yeah, you're right. The darker version of Batman comes in, literally the Dark Knight version from the Dark Knight, Frank Miller's stuff. Before then, Batman was different. Comics were different. Mm-hmm. Everything had to change after Watchmen. Once that book came out, it really did change what people wanted from their heroes. There couldn't be, no one wanted just an issue each week where everything was happy and you just got these segmented stories. Things had to be connected. There had to be consequence. A character dying, they had to die. Because at this point, you would see characters be hit by trains and nuclear bombs and brush the cape off and go, ha ha ha, America, I'm fine. Off to save the day. And that was great. And a lot of people will argue the golden era of comic books was that era, and it's the reason it's called the golden era. And after everything became too dark, I feel it became more real, more gritty, and I believe you got more story or what you were getting.
Oh yeah,
I love the whole long running stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm personally, I've never been a fan of Superman. I never will be, because personally, I find the idea of a hero that most of his villains have to basically use one or two like weaknesses to get to defeat him. Like kind of boring, like a hero like that. That's kind of boring because it kind of feels like there's no threat most of the time to when he's fighting someone. You know what I mean? Which is my only issue with Superman. But I do admit that when I see the Superman comics and stuff, the stuff where the street level stuff, I don't know what the name, but the girl that basically, because her doctor was held up in traffic, was basically going to throw herself off a building, and him just stop, not like catching her or anything or waiting, he just stops behind her and just gives her a hug and basically like that, or like the criminals that he's taken to prison who've turned their life around, where he just he has lunch with the dude every day, not to keep an eye on him, just because he's generally like, you're my friend. You turned your life around.
There's a few there where it's like, well, I was only doing this because such and such. It's like, right, okay, fine. If you're not going to do it again, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's the stuff when you see the fact that he checks up on people that have turned their life around and he's proud of them. It's like, yeah, this is because everyone forgets that yes, he's an alien with all this superpower, but some writers, I'll admit, forget the whole point that he wasn't. He may have been born on Krypton. That boy was raised on Earth.
He was raised on a farm with good parents.
Yeah, that's the whole point of him. His home is Earth, not Krypton.
I mean, his modern day comics have moved. Well, the eras that I'm reading, at least, they did move away from the Clark Kent identity, and into the full Superman Cal identity, and he does lose
some of his humanity.
It does lose a little bit of his touch there. And the problem, like you say, with Superman is, as a character, because he is what's considered God tier, and he's one of these characters that everyone knows he's always holding back his punches, because if he didn't, he would destroy everything. Well, the problem with that is, then there's no real pathos there. There's nothing, no villains can worry. It's when you get those villains that he can't do that to,
that he has to go all out on, and it's like,
it's not even going all out. It's why Lex Luthor is such a great villain for him, because Superman could flick him and kill him, but then that makes him the villain. And so it's someone that can outsmart Superman is a great villain to him. That's why Batman is always going to be a great villain to Superman, because once again, Superman is smart. He's a very smart man. He's gone through all the training that Krypton can give him, after he's already received a lifetime of education from his family.
Oh yeah.
His human side, that human education, it was still farm education and Midwestern education, and he learnt more and more. And then, like I say, he did get the Kryptonian training and all of their knowledge, which makes him smarter than the average bear. You get him up against someone criminally smart, street smart, they screw him. And they're the villains that are great. And that's the ones that is where he's not being beaten by kryptonite and magic. He's being beaten by the fact he can't literally do anything, and every move he makes would make him the bad guy. That's always a good villain.
Oh yeah. It's why it's the thing about it is that Lex is a good villain, but I do think that Lex is a good villain when he's done where he uses intelligence. When he uses intelligence, he's an amazing villain. It's when he doesn't use his intelligence is the problem. When they make him I'm doing this because of some silly idea, and it's like, no.
Yeah. It's like it's a great idea. The story, I have to say, is very not that good. It's called Rock of Ages.
Is the plot line the same as that the Man of Steel movie? Do you remember that one? Or is it Superman Returns or Man of Steel? Whichever one that has Lex basically making a giant island of kryptonite.
No. So Rock of Ages is, without going into the really crazy side of the story, Lex Luthor has started up his own league of evil Justice League. It's not the Injustice Society. This is an actual evil version of the Justice League, and he's got a load of criminals to help him out, a lot of the big hitters. But what he's decided to do is not take over the Justice League, as in just beat them. The fight is just a distraction. He's going to defeat them with business. This is going to be a hostile takeover because he knows business better than anyone. And he keeps mentioning that he's taking over the Justice League via hostile takeover, and these battles are just these sidetracks. The Justice League seem to be losing something. You're not quite sure what the fuck they're losing until all of a sudden Batman comes in and he's like, well, what Lex Luthor doesn't know is I'm actually Bruce Wayne and I'm actually better than him at hostile takeovers. And he sits at a computer and says he's now countering the hostile takeover. And then the Justice League are back to full strength again. And I still don't know what the fuck was going on there. But what I would actually love to see is that storyline where it's it's not so much the superheroes fighting Lex Luthor. It's literally Bruce Wayne going, shit, they're taking everything we own. And the only way we can defeat this is in a boardroom. And I've got to fight Lex Luthor mind to mind on who's taking over whose business first. That is good. Not Lex Luthor going, yeah, hostile takeover, and then Bruce Wayne going, anti-hostile takeover.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just like
I don't know what's going on, and I'm a little bit smarter than most. And I was confused to hell.
Oh yeah, I can fully agree with you there. But I'd be like, what the fuck is going on in this film, in this show?
In this comic, yeah. For instance, one of my favourite storylines in Batman was Joker and amongst a group of others. They don't know that Batman is Bruce Wayne. What they do know is Wayne Tech is somehow funding Batman. So, how do you stop Batman from having all his gadgets and tech? You go to the IRS and say Wayne Tech and Bruce Wayne are embezzling money, and they can prove that there is a budget deficit of over $1 billion. And then when the IRS come and check Bruce Wayne's money and Wayne Tech's money, they go, actually, he's missing $11.6 billion. Where has all this money gone? Of course, it's all gone to make Batman, and the Justice League. Once they cut his money off and Bruce Wayne is only allowed $1,000 a month to live off, plus expenses, Justice League are crippled because they're not being funded anymore.
Nope.
The big space station is now got no power because everything's gone. Batman has got nothing but the utility belts and a few stash houses he's got. He's crippled. On the other hand, the Joker and the Penguin have now got all of Batman's production facilities. And they're pumping out Batmobiles and Batplanes left, right and centre. Great storyline.
It's just it's one of those hilarious storylines of. It is one of those things that makes me kind of laugh with the whole, with Bruce Wayne being Batman. Yeah, he has all this stuff. I'm like, but Like, even the Joker won't fuck with the IRS. Like, that's actually a line in one of the comics. He won't fuck with the IRS, and it's like, yep.
I believe it's from that set of comics, because that is where literally the idea is they're going to screw him over using the government. And there was a long run in the comics where Bruce Wayne is poor. He is living off of an allowance that the government are giving him.
Out of his business because he's fucked up.
Yeah. And that was it, and that was great, because there was like a point in it where there's a big battle, or something's going to be happening. And it's like, well, and the Justice League were going, well, we don't have anything. We don't even have communicators. We're using the Martian Manhunter as our communication system because we don't have communicators.
Because Bruce is an idiot. It's one of those things where unfortunate. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, kind of, because at least the point of revealing that you are X character, X hero, because you know.
Well, that's it. No one knew. So a few issues previously, about a year previously, it was found out through something that Wayne Tech had funded some part of Batman's technology. I think they found something and it had Wayne Tech technology in it. So it was known that there was some sort of connection between the two, and Lucius Fox had gone, yes, we have helped Batman more than once, to help the city. And so from there, they had made these links and decided to say, you know what, let's just say Bruce Wayne and Wayne Tech are embezzling money and see what happens. And then when the IRS come in and go, wait a minute, it looks... You could small an army. You could literally fund a large country's army with the money that's missing here. What's gone on? And Bruce is sitting there going,
like, the Joker hit me in the one place I couldn't stop him. Where's that? My bank account.
Yeah.
It's just like, God damn it, Joker.
So very good.
It is honestly the hilarious thing. It's just like the Joker won't fuck with the IRS. He's like, yeah, but it's like Ad being asked why he's giving the IRS all this back tax he owes, all this tax. Because I don't fuck with the IRS. It's like, okay, Joker. I might be crazy, but I'm not going to fuck with the IRS. It's just like, okay, Joker. It's just
only two things in life that are assured. They will follow you to the same place: death and taxes.
Yep. That's why there's only two things in life that are there's only two things in life that will are constant: death and taxes.
Yeah.
Now,
both will follow you past the grave.
Yeah, the other one will get you ascendant.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's but now we've talked about the first episode. I think we should talk about today. Today's episode was really good. We've talked about with the best character, one of the best and funniest characters from the original series, showing back up.
So today's episode was a bumper 2-for-1 episode.
Yeah.
First part. Well, I mean, we might as well just talk about the first part. So if we talk about.
We talked about the second part a little bit earlier because you did discuss the whole.
It did, yeah.
With the Shadow King. We talked about the second episode. We haven't talked about the first part of this episode, which is Motendo.
The return of Mojo.
And I'm like, yes, we finally get to see Mojo again, who has lost a lot of weight.
At the very beginning, he was looking very svelte.
It was just the fact that he's Why has Mojo lost all this weight? Oh, because no one's watching TV anymore. And I'm like, you did that on purpose. No one's watching his TV shows anymore. He's now pivoting to video games. and they did it in the perfect 90s fashion of Motendo, aka Mojo's version of a Nintendo.
Yeah, using the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis if you're American.
Yeah.
If you actually look at that, it's a Mega Drive / Genesis game and game cart.
Yeah.
With very, very recognisable X-Men artwork on there from the X-Men video game.
I know.
Very good.
It was such a well done, like, here's your little reference to everything, guys. We're going to reference you.
You get a small reference to Apocalypse on the picture as well.
Yeah. Let's be honest. I am convinced he's going to show up in this season at least one point because we have to have 100%. That continuation to the episode with Callisto. You know, We have to have, because remember at the end of it, we lose. What's his face? The guy that betrayed Magneto, Cortez, gets replaced by Apocalypse because Apocalypse takes his body, and it's like we need the continuation. I need Apocalypse back. I believe, unfortunately, though, we will not get the same voice actor back. That's the downside.
I don't think so.
I think the voice actor that played him, I may have passed away, or if we get the same voice actor back and he sounds the same, I would be so happy to hear that voice again. Just because
I think he was very old, but I don't know if he's dead. But he was very old.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just.
I could be wrong.
But it'll be so fun to see if we get Apocalypse back. Just because I'm sorry, but my favourite line in the original series will always and forever be when is it Gyrick or is it Trask that after trying to infect Beast infects himself.
Yeah.
And finds out that Apocalypse is a mutant. Just goes, "You're a mutant, filth, just like them." And it's just Apocalypse's responses. "I am as far beyond mutants as they are beyond you." And you're like, yeah, this is a villain that is a villain that is just badass. Because it's like every time he shows up, he just wipe the floor with them. Like, it's not even a contest for him. He just keeps wiping the floor with the X-Men, and it's like, yeah, this is why Apocalypse is amazing. Because he's this villain that every time they've encountered him, they never win. He wins, not them. Like, yeah, they stop his plans eventually, but they don't. Every time they're in an actual straight up fight with him, it's no, Apocalypse has won this fight because you guys cannot stop this dude. No, also, as we will both agree, episode 2 has the funniest scene ever so far.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's
just funny. It's just the fact that man is willing to. It's like, I will take on Apocalypse by myself. Shit, Jean's having a baby. Just like, okay. Yes, Logan, I love it because it's just the sheer reaction of like he's full on willing to go to fight Apocalypse 1-on-1.
I know.
And then Jean just goes, no, idiot, the baby, and his response is his face of just pure terror, just pure terror. And I love it.
So all of that first Motendo episode, I really, really did like. Also, with the return of Mojo,
we got the return of Spiral.
Here's the thing, I'm wondering if we've kind of missed the hype of them, weirdly enough, but we never got them because they were just about to go big just before the show ended. The X-Men Babies. I would love an X-Men Babies episode. Because that would be funny as hell. A little Bishop and a little Wolverine going on a mission would be funny. And having Mojo just going absolutely ham trying to find them using the other X-Men Babies or trying to hunt down an X-Men or something. Be great.
Oh yeah, Mojo messing with everything was hilarious in the original series.
Yeah.
Cyclops, baby, do everything. Just do this thing for me. Watch this movie. Come on, sign the contract. You won't regret it. It's just like fuck off. It's just I loved him because it's just funny.
That was my only disappointment, and I think you'd agree. The voice wasn't quite right on Mojo.
No, unfortunately, I don't think the voice actor for Mojo is either is capable of doing the voice anymore after 30 years. So and I don't think that they probably weren't able to get the dude.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but I'm still happy we got Mojo. And
yes.
I did notice some bits where he did kind of sound like he used to at certain bits, but only after he'd got, all the fans were happy about the game and he turned back to normal. So it could have been deliberately a choice to have the idea of him not being able to not having his old voice until he got back to his power. Until he got back his power because he was so weak to show that he was weak.
Yeah, but I'm also wondering if maybe they used video game audio during those game sections.
Yeah, true.
And he would have done voice acting for that back then. But even so, I did love that entire thing.
I loved how it went
Also,
through all the major plots of the entire, like a load of the major episodes from the first season, second season, third season, and the fourth season. Like, it went through major storylines that Jubilee was involved in. Like, we got a little hint of Genosha, and it's Genosha, old Genosha. Meek.
yeah, and the whole explanation of Genosha, very, very convenient for what we think is going to happen in the future.
Yeah. And, well, for the next episode, because the next episode is the one that's focused, I believe the one focused on Genosha joining the UN, with an old foe showing up. And I'm like, who's this old foe? And I really, really kind of want it to be Apocalypse, just because it'd be kind of interesting to have Apocalypse show up and cause some sort of mischief again.
Yeah.
But we know that Sinister is the overall bad guy of this season. Like, he is the de facto bad guy of this series at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
But the real question I have is, our current idea is that the last 3 episodes, which are, we know the titles of all the episodes, the last 3 episodes, which are Tolerance is Extinction, is to me, that just screams as, you're about to do the fall of Genosha, aren't you? The whole massacre. Yes. And it's like, oh god, this is going to be horrible. Because that is, as a comic nerd, one of the darkest storylines that also introduced a character that a lot of people now know from, a lot of people know from Deadpool and the few comics she appeared in at the time afterwards. Oh crap, that's Griffin. But, as Miss Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who first appeared dead. That's the funny bit. The first time she appears, she's dead. Are you going to land, Griffin? Or are you going to run away from me like a coward? But yeah. It is one of them moments of, okay, we've got Negasonic Teenage Warhead here. This is pretty cool. We've got... So are we going to get the moment, the fall of Genosha? And that is a real question to be asked.
Now, I'm with you. I think we are. Now, here's the thing. I think if we... I've got so many theories on those last episodes and what could happen afterwards. One of which I've already discussed with you. I think depending on how the actual ending goes, or depending on the future stories, definitely. I think if they manage to find a way to stop the genocide and they live there, they get to live there, I think they're going to do... I think they're going to carry on with the storylines as they are going through the ages like you mentioned when we were talking.
Yeah, all the different comic eras from the 80s to the 90s to the...
Yes.
Straight up
to... If they kill them off, I think we're going to jump ahead to roundabout where House of X and Power of X is. So in the storyline, this is after House of M, and after the No More Mutants. So we start at a point where the mutant race has already been decimated down to a very low level, which is what we would have just seen. And then we go into them moving into Krakoa and them finding a way to be stable again. Because you've got a lot of characters there coming back from weird places. You've got Charles Xavier coming back from the dead, and you've got a connection to Cassandra Nova there as well, who's another character who is starting to become prevalent within live action stuff.
Oh, yeah, well, she's apparently the bad guy of the Deadpool movie, which is like, oh yeah, we're getting to see Charles' sister. Fuck.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why I think if they do go for the complete elimination there, we would move to the more modern day era of stories.
I don't think they'll completely eradicate it. I have a feeling that if the Massacre of Genosha happens, we're not going to have the X-Men decimated down to the House of M and that style storyline, because I don't. But I would actually love to see House of M done, because that is one of my favourite comic storylines, because it's the whole idea that line is that everyone got what they wanted. Every hero was given what they wanted, and it's the thing that a lot of people don't get with Peter Parker, where they go, "Oh yeah, MJ and Peter Parker need to be together," and I'm like, "They're going, have you ever seen the actual one universe where Peter actually gets his happy ending?"
Because if he was truly happy, he would have been with his first love.
He would have been with Gwen, not Mary Jane. It's Gwen that Peter loves. It's Gwen that Peter loves the most, because Gwen is the one that he straight up went after the Goblin for.
Yeah.
That whole scene is that him. That whole scene in the original comic of him basically nearly breaking his, nearly killing the Goblin. Nearly killing the Goblin.
Remember when that issue came out, and the internet went crazy because one half of it went, "Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah, that's right, and the other half went, "No, that's not right. It's Mary Jane." And it was like, no, we wouldn't have cared about Mary Jane.
At that point, Mary Jane wasn't even the one that wasn't even like a blip. She was the replacement.
She was just the next door neighbour's niece.
Yeah, Peter was really happy. He would have saved Gwen's life at that point instead of killing her. And
no, if his happiest moment would be that point never happened at all, and it didn't, and they live on to be happy, have kids, and everyone's there. Even Uncle Ben is still around.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like all of them got like their perfect life. Like,
that's why he has the full breakdown. He hates them for this.
Yeah, that is. I do remember that bit in the comic, because it's just the fact that he breaks down because they show him the truth, and it's like, I love the way that the reason Logan realizes it's not that something's wrong, and I love the whole reason for it, because he remembers everything. Like, he remembers his entire life from the start, and he's like, "This is wrong."
Yeah, whatever had happened to him. Well, it does get. I think later on it is explained, and please, if anyone is listening, please correct me. That when he got transferred over, his healing factor fixed everything from scratch, because they're all in new bodies. They're all as if none of the bad shit had ever happened to them.
Yeah.
But it was still in a place. So his healing factor had fixed all his issues. Yeah, he not only remembered the life that he'd been given, this perfect life, everything, he would remembered all the lost memories from the previous life as well.
Yeah.
That was the big thing for him. He now had memories of 2 separate lives.
I love it though, because it's what makes him realise he's in the wrong world. Because I remember, wait, why am I remembering 2 worlds?
Yeah, well, no, it's more than that. It's like, why am I remembering the things that I was told were never there in my memory to begin with, like his name, to like who Rose is and why. Because there's another bit later on where in the comics where Jean saves him from a star and exploding, and it's just this redhead, and he's like, "Is that you, Jean?" She's like, "Yeah." "Why? Who did you expect?" She's like, "There is someone else." Because you turn out for many of these times when he's been having these visions of Jean when he's nearly dying, it's been Jean. It's Rose, and if you know who Rose is, good on you.
It's just go away. Wolf. But yeah, it's one of those things in regards to it is just such a funny reason for him to realise something's wrong, because it's like only you, Logan, could not be happy knowing everything that's ever happened to you.
Given the most happiest thing, you're not happy. Yeah,
it's like it's only you. No one else knows this. I did like the subtle thing of like the tables turn, where it's like Luke Cage and that leading the resistance of humans.
Yeah.
Because mutants rule the world. Because it's Magneto's perfect world where mutants are the dominant species. But I love that it's done because the only reason that it can exist is Charles has to die, and that seems like a constant. And for Magneto to get what he wants, for Magneto to have this sort of perfect-ish world where the mutants rule, the only constant seems to always be Charles's death. In that sort of idea where Magneto's the one that takes over because leads the revolution successfully, and it's kind of like a saddening thing.
Yeah, Yeah. Well, this then leads into my other theory of what could happen at the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do it,
Are you on about Onslaught and we get Charles and Magneto merged as one?
So my idea is that after Magneto, we've shown him in public saving humans, in private saving mutants and sending them off to Genosha. All of a sudden, all these people he has helped, his people are massacred, and it's his fault. He put them together, and he breaks down.
Oh, yeah.
And in that moment of breaking down, we know full well the only thing left of Charles, or for what we've been told, is his mind out there somewhere. And the two link. And we get Onslaught as the last scene we see for season 2.
Oh, yeah.
We can have decimation.
Yeah, I do feel if the Genosha thing happens, it is full well Magneto's going to snap. He will snap. Because even in that line in the second episode, don't make me disappoint you.
Mm-hmm.
He's straight up saying to them that if it's your fault if I snap, I am doing everything I can to uphold Charles's dream. It's on you to uphold your end of the bargain. And it's like,
I am not doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because at this moment I feel obliged to.
Yeah, and it's that whole bit of do not make me disappoint you. And it's like, yep, you know that this is Magneto. That is because it's still a lot of people forget as well. Is this unlike Magneto in the comics when he does this? In the comics, he becomes a good guy. Is that's after years of fighting with the Charles and everything, and it's with him eventually, overcoming his sort of prejudice and stuff. Whereas at this point, he's only doing it because Charles died.
Well, weirdly enough, in the first time he becomes the hero of the piece, at least, it is very similar to this, only and how it's done. Like, the X-Men are going off to fight him, and during the battle, I think it is Cyclops again that says, "You're doing this. We're going to fight you. We're going to fight you and stop you from doing what you're doing. Just remember, while we're doing this, we're being kept away from our surrogate father who is dying. Your friend. You're keeping us away from our loved one while he's dying so you can do this. So let's get this on." And that's when Magneto stops and goes, "Wait a minute, kid, child. What did you just say?"
Yep, Charles is dying. Yeah, well, that's no, I mean, it's more that... when he does what he's doing now, in the more broader sense of rather than just coming back because of Charles' death, it's when he does it like fully in the comics properly. It's because it's years later after he's learned the error of his ways. Whereas at this point, it's that first time he does it. You know what I mean? Where it's Charles is dying, he comes back just to try and say goodbye to his best friend.
So there's a bit more. There's a little bit more to it.
There's also another thing that a lot of people get mixed up because of the silly Bryan Singer movies.
Yeah, but do you? So I know the story run you're reading, but do you know why Moira McTaggart is important to all of this in the stories you're reading?
Is she the one that has Charles's clone body or something?
No,
that's not it.
So do you know what Moira McTaggart's mutant power? Do you know she's a mutant? Do you know what?
She's the one that fucking gets reborn every time she dies.
Yes. So in the run that you're reading, and I've just finished, the reason Magneto and Charles are working together is not because either one of them has realised the error of their ways. Both of them have seen multiple failures that she has seen, and the only one that so far seems to have worked is the two of them just working together no matter what, keeping everyone in line no matter what. But it also means making sure that not one single person that can foresee the future is allowed to live. Because it's knowing the outcome of the future which keeps causing these problems, trying to stop things from happening before they happen. But weirdly enough, the only way to do that is to stop anyone that can see the future from seeing the future.
Yeah, because if it's because if you can see the future, you can change it. Allah in our D&D campaign, where your character has now become a villain in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he became a villain, and it was because he was shown the future, and that's the problem. He was shown the future exactly as it happened, meaning that all he basically knew was that the rest of the party was going to betray him. That was all he knew, which meant that because he knows that the party is going to betray him, your response was, "I'm going to betray them first." so that I survive, because in this every single point I die at this point. So it was a prophecy if you change the future for the worse by knowing the future. It's very much the same thing that happened in the X-Men comics.
Yeah, but it's quite funny within the comics though. So when Magneto turns up at Charles' sick side, he then at that point that's when he bequeaths him on his deathbed. I want you to take up my dream instead of your arms. And Magneto hates him for it.
Yes, he does.
So
there's one thing I want to talk about in the episode. Not in the episode,
yes.
But something I want to talk about that a lot of people get wrong because of the Bryan Singer movies. That a lot of the people forget. Magneto's helmet doesn't block Charles in those comics at the time, or like that period. It was a thing added after the Bryan Singer movies, because it's because in the comics that he just has the helmet because it's part of his ensemble. Only Juggernaut's helmet actually blocks Charles.
Yes. It's made specifically to do that.
Yeah, but because the helmets look similar, when Singer made the films, he went, "Oh, Magneto's helmet will probably do the same thing." But it doesn't.
No, he did actually give a proper logical reason for this, and it's one I kind of think is logical. If there's a couple of stages in that movie where Charles does try to use his powers to get into Magneto's mind, that would end the film right there.
Oh yeah.
Here, go there, boom, done.
Oh yeah, it would. But I think also, unfortunately, they had Charles using his powers in a way that, from the comics at the time, like the comics that I grew up on and stuff like this, because this was before I started reading the more modern stuff. Yeah. Charles, even from growing up in the anime series, Charles doesn't like using his powers unless without permission on people. He's very much against invading other people's minds.
Yes, but he would use it to locate someone though.
Oh yeah, he does locate people.
In those sort of situations, and that was the point. Magneto knows about Cerebro. He knows about all these things. So I logically get and quite like that touch and change. But yes, it is something that is very much overlooked, especially when people are referring to the older comics and saying, "But Charles would have just wiped him out," or such and such would have just wiped him out now.
It's because Charles knows that he could take out Magneto if he wanted, but he won't, because a lot of people forget Charles doesn't want to kill Magneto or get rid of him. He wants to change his mind because that is his friend.
I also believe though, for a period before the helmet changeover, there was an explanation of the electromagnetic fields in Magneto's body and brain are different to most others anyway, which makes him more. Pardon me, hiccups. It makes him more difficult to read than others, so they can still locate him via his, through Cerebro as a mutant. To actually get into his head would be more difficult because of the electromagnetism around him, naturally. But I don't know if that was a long run thing.
I don't know either.
Like the Green Lantern not being able to do anything against Yellow or Wood.
Oh, the Green Lantern! I can't deal with Yellow, guys. Help! This enemy's armor is yellow. Help! I can't do anything.
Well, I mean, it was specifically one Green Lantern in particular that did it. It was a great. It was Alan Scott's ring. And there was actually an imperfection to Yellow later on in the mainline stuff due to parallax, which was removed. Weirdly enough, I was reading an issue, a more modern issue, recently, in which the joke is someone comes in wearing a yellow T-shirt, and his green eyes like, "Yellow and Wood, the only things that can stop me." And the guy's like, "Really?" Goes, "No." What? I've got a space ring. Why would Wood stop me? Yeah, I guess. So I just thought that was a nice little nod back.
I love when newer comics do old nodbacks to certain things from the originals. You know what I mean? When they do Superman occasionally doing old nodbacks to because I think current Superman is no longer vulnerable to magic or something anymore.
Oh, I wouldn't know if it depended on how modern it is. I'm literally in the what is the era they classed it as? After the New 52.
Yeah.
Um,
The new DC.
what was the one after that though? Is it Reborn?
I
Yeah,
think
Reborn.
yeah, DC Universe Reborn or something.
Yeah, I'm in that era, which is very good.
See, a lot of people and DC stuff. I only really like to DC because I'm not a fan of DC comics as much as I'm a Marvel. I will fully admit that.
Yes.
But I will admit that I do like the Flash. Is one of those characters I like, and so is the Flash and Batman are like the two characters I mostly like. But I do admit, as much as I said before, like I don't like Superman. But when it comes to like characters that are like Superman's one of those characters I think when done on like the low level stuff where he's not fighting super villains, where he's just helping people, like everyday people, he's one of those characters that is really cool at that. If you know what I mean. Like I like his more low level stuff when I see him, rather than him being this overpowered hero. Because, as we were saying before, him as a hero, he's a little boring when it comes to fighting because generally most of his villains can do jack shit to him.
Well, one of the things I like, and this is something that people will scream at me that they hate, but and there's a reason why I like the way that DC do it other than anyone. I know people don't like it being done in general. Is I like how they clean up their universe, because both comics do this. In Marvel events, there's some kind of war. It's an incursion. Something happens that wipes them all back to zero. You start again. More recently, you would know these from things like the Ultimate series,
with the Maker recreating the Ultimate Universe, basically,
and stuff like that. Whereas DC does something on a regular basis. Yeah, but with DC, they do these things called crises, and after every crisis, basically the universe restarts itself. And a great thing is, pretty much in all of them, the main catalyst for each crisis and for the new universe being created is the Flash. In pretty much all of them, he is the reason they stop and start.
So what we're saying is Barry Allen or Wally West is responsible for every fucking wrong thing that goes wrong.
no, they're usually the one that is the reason that they're usually the ultimate fix, which is also the reason that everything has to be reborn again anyway. It's not usually necessarily their fault, but they are the...
Oh no, that's just a joke. It's usually Barry's fault.
It's the Steve's fault. It's usually Barry's fault. Which, funny enough, the first crisis, which reset everything because of how crazy the different storylines and timelines were, Barry Allen did die, and Kid Flash became the Flash. Wally West became the Flash. 20 years before the next crisis happened, in which that is when Barry Allen comes back. Barry Allen wasn't the Flash for 20 years. People seem to forget that. They almost get the Wally West stuff was like a few issues or a year or two.
Oh no, Wally was the Flash for quite a while.
Many, for very good reason, he is the Flash. But anyway, and they clean it up very well. It always then leaves room for them to go back to these old universes in some manner, but clearly which is the new universe that we are following, and these other ones will now be elsewhere stories. And Rebirth in particular, for me, was an absolutely fantastic one, because it starts off with... you've got already Flashpoint. Flashpoint is actually the start of the crisis. You've got things going wrong, and then from there, you've got this letter that Barry Allen brings back to Batman from Thomas Wayne from the Flashpoint Paradox universe, and he's reading this. Batman is reading this over the years, and he keeps scanning this over the time, and then all of a sudden, one day while he's reading it, a badge falls on his floor. And it is a comedian's badge from the Watchmen comic books. And he's like, well, what the fuck is going on there? And then that's when Zoom runs in. And Barry thinks it's the Flash because of a conversation. And he's like, oh shit, it's not Barry. And before he can call Barry, Zoom rips him to pieces. And all of a sudden he realises the thing he's after is the badge. He touches the badge. He disappears, comes back and says... I've just seen God, and he's angry, and then immediately disintegrates into dust. And that's how you start a new universe.
Has just seen God, and he's fucking pissed at us.
Yeah, no, he's just pissed. I don't know if you've read it or not. I don't even know the storyline, but this is where they actually do incorporate the Watchmen universe into the DC universe properly, and then also runs into what would start DC Rebirth. And it does a fantastic way of doing this. If you know Watchmen, you know Dr. Manhattan. He sees everything all at once, all of time all at once, and when he leaves the Watchmen universe, he's there to find and create a new universe. Well, the story then goes, he turns up into the DC universe. When he gets there, things aren't quite right. He's seeing multiple things happen once, but multiple timelines happening at once. So when he gets there, it starts off, and he's like literally looking at it. It's 1939, and I'm on a road in Kansas. A baby crash lands, and a childless couple find him and take him on. And this guy becomes Superman, who can jump very high and he's very strong. And he meets a group of heroes who he inspires to become the Justice Society of America. I also see that it's 1946, and a baby lands in Kansas, and a young couple, a childless, meets him, and they bring him up. And he inspires heroes, and he starts a new group of in fact, he meets the Flash, and he meets Wonder Woman. And now it's 1956, and I see it, and it goes through all the different origins and beginnings of the DC universe, with the different origin stories of Superman being the catalyst, and it is fantastic.
It's like if you have that same thing in the Marvel universe. The technical catalyst for every universe would be whatever creates the Fantastic Four. Is the point where everything starts.
So weirdly enough, there is actually there is an era before them. So the Fantastic Four are, if you look at the way things are brought into the Marvel universe,
I know that they are not the technical first heroes.
No.
They are the heroes. They are the way that they are is they're the heroes that herald the age of where all the heroes stop being like these rare things to being there's a lot of them all of a sudden.
So they are what is classed as starting the age of, and this was explained to me by a very, very cool guy in the comic book industry, who knows his shit, written a few books, and this isn't really regarding histories and as in comic timelines. This is eras in what you get through kind of restarts. So, for instance, the first era of Marvel is the human hero. You know, you've got Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos, and you've got war heroes. You've and you've got just the man. Then you go into kind of the enhanced era, the era of Superman, in a way.
Yeah, the era of here's Captain America.
Captain America, Namor, and the original Human Torch. These are people with powers, but not incredibly stupid. Like, they're not picking up trucks. You know, they're just doing massive feats. Kind of, except for Human Torch, he was an android that set himself on fire.
I still found that hilarious. That's how he started. The original Human Torch as an android.
Yeah, he is different from others. And then it's after that is then you get magic. This is where you get a magic fairy tale. So this is where Thor and I mean, they do come slightly earlier in many things, but this is the era where they become bigger and more prevalent within Marvel, as well as all these other things already being there. So you get Thor, you get Doctor Strange, and the magic and mystique comes in. Then the next one on is the science fiction, and that's when you get Fantastic Four, you get mutants, you get Spider-Man, and there is a burst of these hyper heroes that they had to come from the origin of Fantastic Four being so damn good doing what they did. As and then you get an explosion of wonder heroes, as I like to call it, because they are.
Yeah, it's the way that it describes. It's like I think it's the 602 that says it the best. With the first family, it begins the Age of Marvels. Essentially, the Age of Marvels begins far too early.
Yeah, and this is and weirdly enough, that is kind of true. So in origin wise, you actually get so you've got the platinum era, gold, bronze, all these different eras.
Yeah.
At the time you get the Fantastic Four are at their height. That's when that changes to the Marvel era. There was nothing else. They defined an era of comic books, and only a few years later, the company would be
nearly bankrupt. Sell off a bunch of its assets.
I mean, it's a few decades later, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's weird to explain that.
It's because though at that time there was, if a lot of people forget, is that there was this big market crash of shit. Comics weren't selling very well because movies were starting to become more and more popular, and they were like, Marvel was like, fuck, we're hemorrhaging money. How the hell do we save ourselves? Sell off all our comics. Yeah, that's a good idea. Sell off all our characters. And then a few years later, so they sold off, They sold off to Fox. Fox bought the X-Men and the Fantastic Four.
Amongst other things, yeah.
Yeah, to start with. Those two that I remember from them mostly. And they also... Who was it that had Blade? Who bought Blade off them? I forgot.
21st Century Fox.
Oh, it was Fox, yeah. Who made Blade? And a lot of people forget Blade's a Marvel character, and I always find that hilarious.
And it had a Marvel logo at the beginning of every film.
Yeah, people forget Blade's a Marvel character, and people are like, wait, what? Yeah, the Vampire Hunter is a Marvel character.
Film.
Yeah, I love Blade. I will admit, Wesley Snipes' Blade is awesome, but
yeah, Wesley Snipes is not so much.
Just him, but I don't think he just hasn't aged. I think the word's gracefully. I don't mean in appearance. I mean in the dude's personality.
Yeah, he wasn't easy to work with at the time.
No,
that hasn't eased up.
No, but I will admit I love him in Blade. I was rewatching the first Blade like a couple of days ago. Like I was like, I'm gonna watch this because I haven't seen this in ages. I want to watch it.
Weirdly enough, all three films, even Blade Trinity, that isn't very good, all three films actually hold up.
They do. I have a... You know what would be absolutely hilarious, with all the actors that are showing back up inside in these movies. Apparently they're all rumoured. If we do get, as you were saying earlier, we do get a moment where we get Blade, with Ryan Reynolds killing Blade. With Deadpool killing Blade as a fuck you for what you made me go through on that set. Because let's be honest, he is not above doing that shit. He did it to Green Lantern.
Yeah, 100%. But here's something I would be interested to see, and I think is possible for a shit ton of reasons.
What?
Now, the big villain from Blade 2 was played by Matt Goss. Matt Goss, if you don't know, was actually more well known a few years previously as being part of the band Ross. He went into acting. That he is actually a very good actor. If you look at his number, the roles that he's done, he's very good. But that villain he played needs to come back in something. Now, someone recently told me that he is actually a Wrexham fan. But if that is freaking true, he's definitely met up with Ryan Reynolds at some point. And they have already had they must have had a conversation of going, oh, we've both been in Blade films. We've both worked with Snipes. That's funny. Oh, wait a minute, you were a villain in a Marvel film, were you? I do hope that conversation has happened if that is true, and I would love to see that villain come back. Because he would devastate half of what you've got in the Marvel Universe right now, and I will stand up on a bench and argue that with anyone.
I would just love to see... So, what I'm interested in a little bit is... Okay, this dragon's immune to fire.
That's unfortunate.
But, what I was going to say is... There's a load of characters rumoured to be back in this film. Apparently Jennifer Garner's back, which would be interesting to see if she is, because it'd be hilarious to see that version of Elektra. But another thing that apparently has been accidentally tweeted at the set of the Daredevil show is John Bernthal To which, if he is back, I am so happy because we're getting the Punisher's back, finally part of the MCU again. MCU.
Okay, yes, that has been. Yeah, I have seen those pictures, and yeah, no, he was confirmed. I think a while ago that he was back. By the way, this shouldn't have been new news to anyone. When the new he was already announced before they did rewrites, and then confirmed later to be coming back after rewrites. So yes, no, yeah, it's great to see that it's going to be full Punisher. From what it looks from the pictures, it looks like they're allowing Punisher to be the Punisher we have seen before.
Well,
And not...
apparently in this one, Marvel has gone the whole. This is the start of them doing more dark with, like, because of the success of Werewolf by Night.
Mm-hmm.
The darker side, doing the sort of more darker adult stuff for Marvel. They've realised that probably a good idea if we actually do some more stuff like this for people to watch.
I would say, even though Werewolf by Night was very popular, I would say definitely it's the fact that they've seen how much money one of these films can make if done right.
Yeah.
And they are about to make $1 billion. They know at this point in time they're going to make $1 billion off of Daredevil. Deadpool.
Yeah, because it's one of those films that will do well. Though I do find it hilarious that there are a bunch of people already going, it's going to be woke, guys, already, because everything Marvel does is woke. It's Disney, and I'm like, that word has lost all meaning to me.
Has lost all meaning. It's now just a slang term for I don't like this because I don't want to give a reason why I don't like this.
Yeah. Oh God, fire.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the word has lost a lot of meaning to me many years ago. But it's good to see people catching up. But yeah, no, it's. You know what? How the fuck are you going to turn? From what I've already seen, of the trailers, I would love to see anyone try and make. You know what? I would watch it. If someone told me that there was a fully woke version of Deadpool, I'm going to watch that because I swear that motherfucker's going to come out like a Kevin Smith film. I am watching it. It's awesome. I think that'd be a great idea. But in this case, I don't think that's going to happen. Not when one of the first lines from the trailer is about pegging and Disney not enjoying it.
Yeah, no, right? The very first line in the fucking trailer is pegging's not new to me, might be new to Disney. Just like, fucking, yep, Ryan, stop it. He's getting away with shit again. I think it's because they also realise, just let the dude make the film he wants to make, because I think they've realised at this point.
At this point, he strong-armed Fox into making the movie he wanted to make, and he made them multiple billions from it.
Yeah.
And then, he made Fox valuable, and if it wasn't for him, Disney... And this is another thing to think about here. He made Fox valuable enough for Disney to acquire them, when before they were happy to let them burn out each one of the franchises that they had.
Oh, yeah.
Because they'd already burnt the Fantastic Four franchise was literally 6 months away from burning out of their hands because they didn't have the money to make a new one. And then if they couldn't make a new one, contracts reverted back to Disney. Back to Marvel, but Marvel's owned by Disney. So the best they could hope for was a buyout. It's not like Sony. Sony doesn't need a buyout.
The thing with Sony is that Sony's movies side of it probably does, because that's just hemorrhaging money at this point. But Sony is single-handedly kept afloat because they have they own PlayStation.
Sony has been PlayStation. Sony PlayStation as a brand and as its own department has been keeping the rest of Sony afloat for decades. Their TV, they literally sold off their TV and video franchise departments to other companies. Sony TVs and Sony stuff isn't actually Sony anymore. It's only their computers and their gaming and their movie, which is Sony. Their technology branches are almost completely scrapped. And yeah, it's been keeping them alive. So yeah, no, they don't need shit. All they need to do is bring out another Spider-Man game.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, that's it. The video games side of them is amazingly doing it well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Xbox fan, and and people seem to be other Xbox fans like me are very happy that Sony are doing very, very well. There's a lot of Sony players, PlayStation fans, and some naysayers seem to think this um, Microsoft now saying we're going to make none of our games are going to be exclusive. We're going to sell to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone said this is the death of the Xbox. Well, it kind of isn't.
No, it's that Microsoft's realizing that they can make more money by getting rid of exclusives.
So here is a true thing: every console that is created and sold is sold at a loss to the company. Every single game that is bought is sold at a massive profit. So one of the best ways to keep your home entertainment system cheap than the competitors and in the hands of as many people as possible is to not have exclusive games. You sell all your games to everyone. Their console still has to come out now at full price at $600, $700, $800. And yours comes out at $5. At half the amount of time. It's a genius move. And the other thing that people forget as well is the entire cloud gaming network for PlayStation is Microsoft Cloud Network. So it's no one is losing. No one is losing in this situation. These are companies working together in a smart way for once. And if played right, it means I can play with my friends on the PlayStation with the games that I have.
It is in a sense for both. It is literally for both companies. It is a win. It's a win for both sides. They both win.
It's a shame Sony are being very Sony and not wanting to play games and play ball is the right word, I guess, with anyone. Because it'd be so much better for them as well if they could sell their games, their Spider-Man games, to the Xbox market. That's double bubble for one game.
The bit they don't get is that, like for example, for me, I am not going to buy a PlayStation to play their games, like their games that are only on the PlayStation. I'm not going to buy one if I can get it. Even though I want to play it, and if I own an Xbox, for example, I'm not going to go and buy your console just to get it because I don't have the money to do that in this economy anymore.
Yeah, but the other thing is but on the same premise is like what they tried to do with the Spider-Man franchise on film. You know, they had multiple billion-dollar films under their belt after the crossover with Marvel. Marvel saying, let's carry on doing this. Like, we're working together perfectly. Do you know how much money we're making each other? You know, you're taking this over there. We're taking this. This is awesome. And Sony went, yeah, but we want now nearly all of it. We want you to pay for it, but we want all of it back.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's not how it works. And it took Tom Holland walking into these people and going, are you guys idiots?
I know.
Do you really not understand how much money we could make? And how much goodwill we would get just by working together for a couple more films?
Yeah.
The way we're doing it. We're all making money. Do you know how much money we're all making?
Yeah, that's the point. That the bit they weren't getting. I think it is honestly. It's because Sony a lot of people do forget sometimes that Sony is not a US company like Disney and Marvel are. They do have somewhat of a different mindset a little bit because they are a company that is primarily owned by Japanese, the Japanese, which is unfortunately it means that they have a different not like a different work ethic, but like crap.
I do believe that the movie side of it is run by Sony US, and then the actual Asian market is run by
the games is run by the Asian side. You can tell because of how I think.
Well,
I'm silent.
To be fair, there is they are so huge in Japan. That is, I mean, the Xbox basically doesn't exist in Japan. It has no market share whatsoever to any real extent. It is a PlayStation or it is a Nintendo. And they cornered the market on the JRPGs, which are some of the most fantastic games that I could not play that are around. I mean, I've played many of them. I cannot. I'm so bad. Unless it's Final Fantasy, I'm screwed. But I love watching my friends play games like Persona and um, uh, what was the rival to Quake? Not Quake. Something time. Jiminy Crickets. I'm gonna get kicked out of Geekdom if I don't remember this.
My Time in Porsche?
No, it was a Square Enix. It was a SquareSoft game, not Square Enix. Shit, I'm gonna definitely lose my card here. It was a SquareSoft game before they got crossed over with Enix, and it was
Chrono Trigger?
he traveled through time. Chrono Trigger. Awesome game.
Well, it is an awesome game.
But yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, the JRPG market is just incredibly crazy for them, and it is getting more. It's so popular in America and in Europe, it's unbelievable.
JRPG. I still think Square Enix is like the smartest, one of the smartest devs lately.
Oh.
Do you know why?
Go on.
Hey guys, you know that game you bought like nearly 20 years ago or so that you paid for one game? We're gonna split it into 3. Nothing can convince me that Square Enix are not fucking evil geniuses for that.
I mean, they knew they could do that. That was crazy. Final Fantasy VII remake. What are they doing? The less spoken about that, the better. This is why.
Final Fantasy VII is still not my. It's still. I will get crucified on the internet by the fact that I say it's not my favourite Final Fantasy.
Wow.
My favourite is 6. Come at me.
Actually, I very much love 6. 6 is awesome. 6 was the last one on the Nintendo. That was awesome. Yes, you are right. I mean, no, yes and no. Yes, it had
I don't think 7's a bad game. It's not my favourite. That's basically my thing with it.
No. I mean, you. I mean,
7's a good game. It's just not my favourite. 6 was my favourite, but probably because I played 6 first, not 7.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. No one really ever throws Nintendo Final Fantasies into the mix. That's a good shot there. Oh, you cause problems, you bitch.
Oh no! Stop killing my pet minions. They're minions. I need them alive.
Yeah, you make a good point. Actually, I would go. I would argue they are very comparable. But yeah, no. Here's my dichotomy with it. I think SquareSoft was always the better company. I think since the merger with Onyx, it has been very much a slow dripping death towards what they are now. But my problem here is
what?
The reason SquareSoft went bust was because of the film Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which in every capacity is terrible. I'm
gonna not hard disagree. I'm gonna slightly disagree with you because I kind of like that film.
Here's my caveat. I think that is one of the most beautiful films I have still seen in that style of CGI. No one else ever tried that hard to do that much wonder with nothing but digital effects, because literally after that, the way of doing that type of digital animation changed. And if they kept with that, that would have been the pioneer. The way the jackets moved. My problem is that there was no gravity. Everyone looked like they were just floating a little bit above the surface.
And then there's Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, which I think was just blatant fan service. And I only think it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was not bad. It was good. I just think it honestly only did as well as it did because it was Final Fantasy VII. If it wasn't Final Fantasy VII, it would not. No one would be saying that film's amazing.
100%. Then I would say in the same argument.
Your microphone's peaking a second.
Sorry, I would argue in the same thing that no one would have cared that of both the last Avengers Endgame and the other one if it didn't have the Avengers in it.
Well, Endgame and Infinity War wouldn't have been as successful as they were if it wasn't for the build-up. And the thing I love that people forget about, they're going, "Oh, Marvel's dead," with like the new Marvel films where they aren't doing as well lately, right? But what a lot of people that are saying that are kind of forgetting one major thing about the newer Marvel film, the Marvel build-up to Endgame and Infinity War. There were some duds in that lineup of movies. Still, just like there are now, not every film that Marvel's released, even in the old, like the original set, was good.
Right now, amongst other things that I've said, this is going to sound very contradictory. I would not class any of the films, even the ones I don't like, as duds. If you actually compare them to films around the same time of the genre we're getting into, so this is, yes, we're in phase 5, but technically we've just had a massive end story. That's done. So everything after that is basically going back to stage 1 again, where we just had a collection of people we don't really know much shit about, and they're getting a random set of stories. I would prefer more continuity, yes, and more reference back to what's happened, yes.
I have a feeling at the minute, though, the problem they have at the minute is that they were in this build-up to... Let's be honest, they're in the build-up to get Kang Dynasty out and get to Kang and have this whole Kang thing. And unfortunately, they've had to fire the actor that was playing Kang.
If you compare the profits that each one of these films have made in these new phases, comparatively to the other singular movies that were doing the same type of storyline, as in setting up new characters, the new ones have made more money.
Yeah, it's just that the budget for them's gotten higher, which means that they have to technically make back more money.
Yes, but I say their profit has been higher.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I do believe all of them have essentially made $1 billion. Yeah, I do believe they all have essentially at the end after all been done, have made back their money, but they've not. It's just that they didn't all make their money back like some of the older films did, like nearly within weeks of coming out, and it's like because they didn't do it immediately, it's a box office failure. The reality is, it isn't a failure, but it's just unfortunate. I see what you're saying, yeah. But it's also because a lot of these films have come out. Unfortunately, they've come out in a post-COVID world where, honestly, a lot of people don't want to go to the cinema anymore. Don't want to go to the cinema and stuff anymore. That's kind of the thing. Some people do, some people don't. It's like you have a day, caught me now, where you have a split kind of thing where.
Yeah.
Because also remember, a lot of cinemas in some towns have, like, for example, here in England, a lot of Odeons have closed. And they were, because the view is just overtaking them in every way. The view is just better. They've opened, like, a new cinema in my town, which, my personal review of it, comfy seats, really immersive, it's an IMAX theatre, but I'm not paying those prices.
That's interesting. Now, what prices are you saying here?
About £15 a ticket for any of the films. Not just Marvel films, any film.
Okay, so now here's the weird juxtaposition, because I live in London.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is now a touristy thing, because I don't know, because I get it wrong. So I live in London, I live in Greenwich.
Yeah.
Don't dox me any further.
You live down south.
Cheapest price at an Odeon was around about £15 to £20 a ticket.
Yeah.
The reason the View is so good and everyone started going to the View here is because their cheapest ticket is £6.99. If I want the big plus VIP ticket, that's £11.
Yeah.
So
that's the ticket I usually get when I go to the view that we have up, up where near I live, up up north, and it's like I usually get the one because it's the recliner seats. I like the recliner seats; it's nice and comfy, and you can just sit back and enjoy a film. You know what I mean? But it's that thing of, but the cinema though, it's like the seats. You don't have a lot of leg room. Like in these seats I was sitting in, and it's like it's really nice sound and everything. I watched Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. I love that movie. I absolutely love it because I got to see what I wanted to see, which was big monsters fighting, and that's all. Like I don't give a shit if there's. I don't care about the plot for those movies. That is my honest opinion.
Oh, thank you. I'm of the same opinion.
I don't give a shit. Your plot can be whatever you want it to be. All I give a shit about is do I get to see Godzilla beat the crap out of some monster? Yes? Yeah. Cool. Good film.
All my story needs to be is a setup for the reason the monsters need to fight, and then you just leave me watching the fight. what my a friend of mine who I love and respect um rang me up and said, I'm at the Godzilla. I've just finished watching the Godzilla film. Now, ironically, I just finished showing another friend of mine who's a big Godzilla fan, Godzilla Minus Zero, because he's a fan of the old stuff, and this is a great representation of
Oh
the
yeah,
old stuff.
Minus Zero is,
Like, oh yeah,
I've still got to watch it. I need to get around to watching Minus Zero. I will admit that. Um,
the complaint I got was story's very confusing. There's not really much of a story there. I went, is there a massive monster battle? And there's shit tons of monster battles. I was like, that's all that film needs to be. You don't watch Teletubbies. The children don't watch Teletubbies for the plot. They watch it for colourful things and tubby toast. I do not go there to listen to a bunch of humans tell me that the world is going to shit and there's toxic environmental waste everywhere and we're all going to hell in a handbasket whilst two things are stumping their feet in the corner. I want to watch them two kick the shit out of each other while you fuck off.
yeah. Godzilla Minus One is like, I've not watched it yet because I do want to watch it, but I'm a fan of the Toho era, like the Toho and the Showa era, like, you know, the old school Godzilla movies with the guy in a suit, silly things. But I'm also a massive fan of as I think you know what my favorite monster is from Godzilla's like entire roster of monsters.
I see now. I'm a King Ghidorah man myself, but are you? I don't know. Maybe a Mothra.
Nope, King Ghidorah. Because Ghidorah is just amazing. I love Ghidorah. It's like it was such a good design of a monster, even when it was made, when it was invented. That's how good what good a design Ghidorah is. He's iconic.
Did you watch the Netflix animated series?
Are you on about the one where Ghidorah is just like a weird ghost thing instead?
Plasma lightning bolt.
Yeah.
I from what you've just said there, I'm going to assume you didn't like it so much. I love that take on him.
I'm not as much of a fan of that show, but I did love they wove in the mythos from all the different like films, because a lot of people forget Godzilla gets to a point where aliens start appearing, and it is a ridiculous franchise. This is why This is why the MonsterVerse. I hope they eventually get to the point where they start introducing the fucking alien races that start weaponizing the different monsters, and it's like, because yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it makes no sense. But I don't give a crap that it makes no sense. It's funny, it's silly, and it's like a classic Godzilla thing of just aliens trying to weaponize monsters to fight Godzilla so they can take over the Earth because Godzilla's the defender of the Earth. And it's like, it's just like, yeah.
And what is fantastic is, and the thing they didn't mention, they kind of did allude to in that last film, but didn't really actually explain, is that the reason King Ghidorah is so powerful and can do so much. Similar to almost overpower Godzilla in his way of controlling the other beasts, is because he is basically the Godzilla of his world. He has been moved over here by those aliens. He was the Prime, moved to destroy another Prime. That was it. And that's why he's so much more powerful and so great.
Well, in the film, they just outright say after testing his DNA, he's not from Earth. They did outright say Ghidorah wasn't from Earth in King of the Monsters, King of the Monsters, and I love the fact that we got Ghidorah in that film, because Ghidorah is badass, and Ghidorah is just. I also love the fact that Mechagodzilla in the film, the reason he turns evil is Ghidorah takes control, and I loved it. Ghidorah. It's the idea that Ghidorah's not dead. He'll be back eventually. It's like
there's another egg out there somewhere.
Oh yeah, and I want Ghidorah. But also, did you know that Doug, Titan Doug that we met in Godzilla vs Kong? When Kong goes to the Hollow Earth, and then he's in a little scene in this one as well. Did you know that in the MonsterVerse universe, that's baby Godzilla? That's apparently the baby Godzilla's like first stage in that universe.
Interesting. Because you're going to see something in. You're going to see something in -1. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that it's like they've done his baby form in like instead he's a quadruped, not a biped. It's like it makes sense, the idea that the more he evolves, the
I can't wait for you to watch -1 now.
No.
So
I
that's
can't
what-
wait for you to watch Godzilla X Kong and tell me about it when you get a chance around to watching it, because honestly, I love it, and I love the whole reason Godzilla becomes pink. It's actually a thing in the story of why he becomes pink, and I love it. It's a sad thing that it's one of the cool monsters from the original things, kind of only is used there just to basically become Godzilla becomes pink because Godzilla, you know.
Yeah, I will get to it. What was I? I was going to mention a auxiliary thing, and I have lost it.
Well, have you lost your mind or lost your brain?
I think a bit of both.
Probably. We have been talking for I think 2 hours now.
Yeah, it has been. We should wrap up soon. But no. The thing I was going to mention, weirdly enough, is the Power Rangers Godzilla crossover in the comic books. Because Rita decides that she's had enough of trying to fight this Angel Grove with its Power Rangers, so she's going to take her monsters to a new world where there's no Power Rangers, and she accidentally brings Tommy over with her. I believe it's Tommy at the time, and obviously the others come along. But she turns up in Tokyo or Angel Grove in the Tokyo of the Godzilla world. And it is being smashed to pieces in the middle of a fight, and she's like, "Stuff, what hell have you done?" She was like, "These ain't any of ours." So she ends up going, "Well, these monsters are fucking huge and they're really powerful. We want to know who's creating them." So she actually goes after and takes over the aliens, and takes over all the aliens' monster pods, and uses Finster to augment them. And yeah, so you then have a massive fight with Godzilla versus the Dragonzord, and then Godzilla fighting the Megazord, and then Godzilla, the Megazord, the Dragonzord, all fighting every single one of the monsters you know and love from the Godzilla universe, including Ghidorah.
Ghidorah is amazing. I love Ghidorah because it's just long. It's the whole idea of just long live the king.
Mm-hmm. Just so funny. It's so good. It's actually a very good book.
He's such a villain. You know, it's because I think it's also because Ghidorah. I appreciate Ghidorah so much because Ghidorah is one of those creatures that is like the way that they designed him was not easy to do when they did him in the original. The original era. Like now CGI. I love the way they did him in that film as well because in King of Monsters I love the fact that they actually had the idea that all three heads have their own brain, and it's essentially one of them is a little derpy. Compared to the other two, like you have the super serious like lead brain, the smart brain, and then you have the, one brain's a little bit stupid. And I love it. The fact they actually did it where Ghidorah has it really does.
Yeah.
It really does have the whole idea that Ghidorah has three personalities because it's Ghidorah. It would make sense because it's got three heads. How would they all operate?
I think the one that's a bit derpy is actually meant to be the telepathic one.
Yeah.
It's one that connects all three, the other two together.
Yeah, it's such a good though. It is honestly, in the case of it, it's one of those things that I think is just a really good part about, you know what I mean about King Ghidorah in those movies. Like, don't get me wrong, like the original Toho and Showa era Godzilla, the original Ghidorah version is amazing, but I will love the way MonsterVerse brought Ghidorah to like a Western audience. Yeah. Because the thing about them doing the whole Godzilla stuff, the reason I love it so much is they didn't go and do what a certain director did and gave us a certain shitty person that is now officially named Zilla instead of Godzilla. They gave us proper MonsterVerse with like proper titans that they made up themselves because they wanted to, and actual ones we've seen from the originals.
Well, weirdly enough, you're going to get... There's, you mentioned it. In Godzilla -Zero, there's a bit where the officials are talking about Godzilla. And they mention that the Americans have called it... have said it slightly wrong. And they were like, Americans are idiots. They'll say what they want.
Oh yeah,
It
because
is.
the joke. It's because the joke of the fact that in Japanese his actual name is Gojira, not Godzilla, but
Yeah.
in the translation of it in English, it's Godzilla, and it's just a funny part. I like the fact they've actually made the joke out of it.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. But yeah, no, that's a very good film for the budget of it.
Oh yeah,
And I would love to see the rest of the universe come together. But one of the things it does, and this is, it's a sad thing really, that the way that they made those films and the way they made a lot of the Super Sentai stuff and the Power Rangers and stuff back in the day was these were trained actors in these big bulky suits that knew how to fight and move in these suits.
yeah.
And then they were placed in miniature sets that would have explosives and buildings that would fall over and break on cue, but would easily be put back up again and then ready for another shot.
Yeah.
And sadly, since the invention of CGI and other things and special effects, that art has died out to the point that no one actually knows how to do it anymore. Let
There are
alone
some.
it
You
being
do get a
done
lot of
in
indie
full-
devs doing practical effects. Like a lot of horror movies, I've noticed, have started going
Yeah.
back to practical effects, and a lot of some films have it in like even in the US thing of in like big superhero ones are going back to a bit more practical effects for a lot of their like smaller projects because they're realizing
Yes, they are.
CGI is good for
But
the big stuff, for the big films, but it's not as good for the smaller scale stuff that people do.
yeah, but that particular style of filming in which it is big people, small sets and stuff, and these prop things, that actual style has almost had completely died out, and there's no one really doing it. So it was one of the problems with the Power Rangers remake. Everyone wanted to see the original Megazord come back and have a fight. But
By the
there's no
remake, you mean
one
the gritty
doing that.
version?
Oh no, I mean in Once and Always,
Oh yeah,
the 30th anniversary edition episode, where the Megazord does come back, but all of the Zords are CGI, and it's because you can't affordably do any of that old stuff anymore, or have the people that can do it anymore. And the reason I'm saying this is because part of what they've done with Godzilla Minus Zero is they've used CGI to actually recreate that style of film in certain aspects. There are parts that are practical effects and miniatures, like and they have managed to do. But there are parts that look like they're miniatures, and it's all CGI.
they've done it. Well, to be fair, I think I've noticed when I've seen like the Japanese stuff that does use CGI, like a lot of their CGI sometimes. I'm going to say this with some of their animes that they turn into, like live action films. Does give me a little bit of the Uncanny Valley vibe sometimes when they use it. Because sometimes they don't. It feels like they don't really know how to, if you know what I mean, use it properly.
You usually find that these are cheap, basically made to DVD sales, mostly for the Western audience more than the Eastern audience.
Oh yeah.
All the Death Note films, for example, the live action ones, all of them weren't made for the original source viewers.
No, they're made for us. I all know that.
Yeah.
I watch them because I can't be asked watching. I'll admit I watched like a lot of them, like the Full Metal Alchemist one and that one.
Mhm.
I've watched. The reason I've watched them is because I've loved Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I've watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I don't watch anime that much, but I will say in regards to it that I watched that because it captures the feel of Brotherhood quite well, and also it means I don't have to sit I don't have to binge watch for a couple of weeks through an entire anime that as much as I love it, I can't binge watch through anime.
Don't get me wrong.
That's
I
my
mean,
law.
I'm a big fan of B movies anyway. So I mean, I love watching Mystery Science 3000. So these films are. I'm going to watch these films with an element of joy anyway. So I get it. But yeah, no, these are very cheaply made films, and they are what they are. And I mean, a great example of these is the what was it called? Crime Freeman. This is a very old. This goes back to late 80s, early 90s when they made a live action adaptation of that. And yeah, even from then, no one really knew what the fuck they were going to be doing with these things. You can't really adapt these kind of things efficiently.
No.
I think the best you could ever do, enough, would be something like Full Metal Alchemist, but he,
Even then, it doesn't entirely work all the time.
I mean, Netflix money isn't really enough to do the really good CGI and stuff you need for that stuff, unfortunately. You need a proper movie studio, because even for the best of what, for all the money that Amazon pumped into the Lord of the Rings series,
Oh yeah.
I wasn't as and parts of it I really loved. Don't get me wrong. There were the very last scene of the very last episode blew my brains out. Up until then, I weren't impressed really.
I will be honest. I enjoyed Ring. I am normally, like, when it comes to stuff that's based off books and stuff, I am normally, and fully admit this, I'm a purist. I don't like, altering it. But I'm going to admit I liked Rings of Power because, yeah, it's not canon, but I'm sorry, but not everything that's made, like, in sort of like those universes needs to be canon. Because nobody really knows. I'm going to be honest. Oh, it's not canon, it's all this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but nobody really knows what fucking happened at that point in history, because the book that's written about that point in history is, unfortunately, a bit of a mess.
And also you're right. You're 100% right. And to some extent, though, you have to tell a different story. If you want that original story, you go to the original material. There has to be a change between the two. I mean, it's when you change points or massive elements that I always worry. There are some things that, especially with Lord of the Rings, you've got so much there that is available to you. Like, it's kind of like with Douglas Adams. There's so much there available to you with what he's left behind, that you can cobble something together out of what is there and unfinished and unused to make something completely new and technically within the canon. I mean, everything. And my problem with that show isn't it doesn't come directly from a book, because actually kind of what they've done, especially with how the rings were created and how people were situated, it's how they're meant to be situated. What you're witnessing is the history happening in the show. What you've heard is history being told to you. Books. And I think that is the juxtaposition people don't really seem to understand.
Yeah, it's like, for example, my favorite franchise is Warhammer 40k, right?
Huh?
The books in that universe, certain books will contradict the way things happen in other books, right? And GW's big thing, their big way of saying why this particular happens, like, why this book and this book contradict each other, is every book is written by what's the term unreliable narrator. It's someone writing the history years after the fact, after it's happened. So unfortunately, they don't know what actually happened. They just know there was this big battle. These were the heroes involved. And they did this, and this is the result of it. And they're basically writing, they're working with, like, accounts from it that are all muddled, and some of them are contradictory and so on. If that makes sense, from these universe events, and that's what they're writing the stories of. And I think that's the thing that people seem to forget, is that Tolkien loves his universe. Tolkien, if he was still alive, if Tolkien wasn't, was still alive, if Tolkien was still alive today, I reckon he would have been him that wrote Rings of Power, and I bet some of the stuff that happened in it would probably still have happened, and people would still moan, because it's not the same. It's like, it contradicts. It's like, but yeah, unfortunately, it's this thing of that you go back and you find things that were wrong in your stuff when you were so far. Like, people go, oh, Tolkien would roll in his grave. I'm like, I know, I don't think he would, because I think he would probably be probably happy that people are still loving his books hundreds of years later and still writing stuff based off them. I didn't fall in the water. But yeah, it's like, I like Rings of Power. Yes, it's not canon. It doesn't make sense to the books a little bit. But at the same time, it's set so far before the books in, like, the Second Age, that some of the accounts we know of from the Third Age might not be accurate. and that's, as you were saying, they might not be necessarily accurate because we don't have as much information about that period of it. Because the Silmarillion is a good book, but it is so confusing to read that book.
Yes.
Say it's so weird to read that book. I will fully go. Okay, but and like, there's not much known of them. The Hobbit is a really short book, and Lord of the Rings is really, Lord of the Rings is a really good trilogy, but like, it's like the movies are good. Like, people complain about the Hobbit being 3 parts, and I'm like, actually, I can see why they did this. They wanted to incorporate certain bits from like the Silmarillion and the other books that they know that Peter Jackson knew he couldn't make movies of because it wouldn't make sense if he did.
Yeah.
So he did it in this, did this whole nice way of, I would incorporate some of the stuff from this to sort of explain stuff and set stuff up that actually happens in the other 3 films, and so on.
Here's also the other thing to remember, is that, like with a lot of these franchises, is that there are certain things where, in the remakes, you're going to have to keep a certain amount of lore. The
same,
to keep story running. But yeah, some of it is just going to need to fall down to the wayside because of how you tell stories.
It's also some of it also as well is, for example, with the terms of the Lord of the Rings films, is certain scenes from those books was at the time there was no way in hell they'd be able to recreate that scene.
Yeah, but also it's kind of like Star Wars in the sense that large amounts of the lore and how things are meant to be is only there because fans have agreed on it over time, not necessarily because it's 100% true. It's just how the group has interpreted a set of text, kind of like a religion. And
we know Star Wars fans are the worst when it comes to that, and I will admit that being one of them.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, someone will come along and go, look, so I'm actually now in charge of telling these stories. And this thing that you've interpreted as 2 years for this is actually, I'm telling that story now. And what I'm going to show you is what actually happened.
Yeah.
And they go, no. It's like, well, no, what do you mean, no? So it's kind of like with this stuff, in a way. It's like, we don't really know 100% what happened because all of that stuff is really only told in tale.
Yeah.
So now we're actually seeing what happened. And do you know what? You learn a great fact about history. Sometimes what we know today as fact isn't actually what actually happened.
Oh, do you mean like the straight washing of history or the whitewashing of history? That, by the way, the whitewashing of history is actually a funny thing that it actually it did happen in a sense, in the terms of hi, we're the British, we're Victorian England. Medieval armor should look clean and pristine, and we literally whitewashed all the shit, all the actual stuff that made it look like it's supposed to look off it. And these statues that were actually lovingly painted originally, they should all be just the marble, right? Whoops.
And there's many, many kind of bits like that.
And there's also I love the joke with the historians. The joke with reading old historians' accounts of certain people going, yeah, her good friend that lived with her, or his good friend that lived with him, that he was never seen without. And it's like, mate, they were gay. They were clearly gay.
Yeah, I mean, but other than that, there is some great examples of things. I mean, not so much really on the subject of any.
It's just like the fact that there's so many things in history that we've now learnt about recently, and like from discovering new stuff that we got this wrong. Yeah,
no, but in crazy ways. So I don't know if we've ever discussed this before together or with.
No, I don't think we have.
No, I mean this particular subject about a culture called the Hittites and their homeland Hittitus.
No, we have not discovered it.
These are one of the most fascinating people because up until literally recently, as in decades, one of the few references for them is in the Bible alongside Babylon. And the other one is on a wall in a memorial in Egypt, in which it says the Egyptians destroyed the Hittites and took their lands. Which we assumed that was it until they found Hittitus. Hittitus was quite interesting because it turned out not only to be a massive fortress but it had underground water, and it could pump water into this fortress from over a mile away from a river. And as they went through, they found many things, including the fact that they wrote down what they did as a task each day on clay tablets. They had every single day they lived there pretty much. They knew how to make bread. Everything was there, including their history. And their history had basically a whole thing about how the Egyptians came in for a battle. They couldn't get through the fortifications. And even the war of attrition wouldn't work because all their farms were inside the fortress, and all their water came from underground through a pipe system to them. So then they just picked off the Egyptians, and then went, "Fuck it, we're going to take the land around the Nile." And they have basically the peace treaty, where the Egyptians say, "Yeah, we give up." A few years later, an actual war does kick off inside Hittitus, and they destroy themselves from the inside out. Only the leader and a few people escape, and that has its whole weird history on how it actually starts up European culture, but I won't even go there. But once they die out, that's when the Egyptians put on the wall that they won the battle. Egypt changed history in their own lifetime that would affect the history and our knowledge of the area over 4,000 years later.
Well, it's the thing, isn't it? It's the phrase is history is written by the victors. The Hittites essentially did lose because they essentially wiped themselves out, whereas the Egyptians survived. So the Egyptians were able to go, "We can write what the fuck we want. They can't. They're not here anymore. They can't contradict us."
And that's why I've always loved the amendment to that phrase. Is history is written by the survivors.
Yeah, it's one of those lovely things of whoever survives the one who writes history. Like a lot of our history the only reason we know so much, like here's the fun reason, the only reason we know so much about basically the last century, right, compared to centuries before us where they didn't actually know as much about the previous centuries, because we invented stuff that allows us to start recording it in the last 2 centuries, and because of that, like stuff that let us actually record photos, and we invented the photograph, and we invented the stuff that allows us to take pictures of those things, and because of our healthcare getting better, people from those centuries were living longer, meaning that they weren't just stories passed down from your grandfather who died at 48. To you who was only like a kid and dying at 40. It's that they are passed from your grandfather who's in his late 80s, or your great grandfather. You know what I mean?
But I mean, here's the thing as well. Going back as well to things like whitewashing of history and the connotations of that. These things happened as well long before. This is not to defend any of my white English and white Dutch heritage at all, but long before our civilizations were civil.
What do you mean we're civil? We're not civil now.
I know, but you know what I mean. One of the great things that people seem to forget is that the Greeks had already. So Egypt, in particular, as a great example of things, history being wiped and changed. The people that are there today do not look at all like or anything like the people that were there when the first pyramids were created.
Nope.
And I'm not just saying that in the fact that the people that the Arab population there now, because there is a lot of heated debate over that. I'm talking long before that, thousands of years before that. The Greeks came in with a guy called Alexander the Great that took over from the people that were there then. And there is speculation to think that the people that were there then weren't even the original people. But at that point, it was the Greeks that had taken over. The Ptolemies had taken over. And then, after Alexander the Great, he doesn't have any kids. He actually shoves the line over to his general. And then he's the one that has, his line is what then becomes Cleopatra. What people seem to forget is, and the great thing to point out there is that the people that built the pyramid, so the pyramids being built is the same distance of time to, or would have been lost originally in the same amount of time to Cleopatra as Cleopatra is from when we first walked on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And already that particular part of the world has had multiple different looks and changes and cultures taking over from the original and hiding the history of the original.
Yeah.
And so the same could be so it's very easy to see that over every culture. It's just something that sadly does happen. It's not nice. It's not right, but unfortunately it does, and we've seen it throughout history.
Oh yeah. You're seeing it in modern history where
We
the
hope we
difference
get better.
the difference between this is probably going to anger a bit if anyone who's watching this is Americans. But I apologise in advance. But the difference between the American Civil War education for Europeans to the Americans. Like, they're all taught obviously that, we pushed the British back and won. When you talk from our point of view of basically of what actually happened is, yeah, they're not worth it. We're in this war with this country over here. Let them have it.
Yes, there is so. I mean, it's still a bit more.
It's a bit more complicated, but it's the essence of what, like, one of the basic factors of why they got their independence was it kind of isn't worth us that we could send the Armada in and crush the rebellion, but then they're just going to rebel again later, or we could kind of just let them have it, and because we've got to deal with these guys over here and this thing over here.
One of the great battles of at Rochambeau, is a great one. I love pointing this out because, weirdly enough, it's exactly what Hitler did when he attacked Russia. He could have taken out, or in this case, we could have taken out either the rebellion in the south, or we could have fought the French in the north. Now, the original idea was everyone was going to go to the south and take out the rebellion, but when they got there and a bunch of the naval forces found out that the French were there, they was like, we're going to go kick the shit out of the French. And the person in charge said, no, we're going to go down here. And then half the ships went, no, the French are here. Did you actually hear us when we said the French were here? So we're going to go do the French thing first, and then we'll come back and sort out this, because, to be honest, it's the French. It's what we do. They did.
We spent 100 years fighting them already. We'll fight them again.
Yeah, it was. This was blood hate at this point. I mean, there was no reason for it. If they had sent all their forces down to either end, whole of history would have changed. There was literally going to be a fight between the British Navy over who was going to fight. In the end, it came down to who was going to fight the French, not which ones were going to be leaving. It was, no, some people still have to go fight these American guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because we can't all go fight the French.
Because, it kind of would be embarrassing if we just decimated the French army.
and then came back and, like, all of a sudden, we've lost the... Anyway, yeah, there's so much. But
it was
on the other side of it, they get taught about Paul Revere. Now, I'm going to be very stupid here because I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sure his last name is Smith, but he was a doctor. Now, the great thing about Paul Revere is he was the guy who ran around with the lamp going, the redcoats are coming, the redcoats are coming. But he actually got arrested quite early on by a sentinel, British sentinel, and that's how his story ends on that particular journey, although other things do happen to him. But the town before he gets arrested, he walks into one guy who was out courting his long-term lady. In other words, at that time in the morning, he was coming back from getting his dick in. But he was a doctor, and Paul Revere said to him that the redcoats are coming, and he did actually enough of the people of his town up and awake and out of the way before anyone could come through. This guy has a fantastic story past that because he goes on to be one of the soldiers fighting the English. And at one point, he's in a battle with all his people. And the English are coming over the hill. They're almost out to their last musket. And he tells his men, don't worry, I think we're going to be able to get away. Let's retreat. and they run. And once they've run quite a far distance, they turn back to see what's going on, and their captain is no longer with them. In fact, he's at the top of the hill, cutting down every single one of the British soldiers with his bayonet, giving his men enough time to run away.
I die so you can live.
He didn't realise he'd killed the last of the platoon that was after him. So he just walked off. This guy went on to have quite a nice little career in the Civil War.
Well, that's what you get when you... Yeah, but it's the things. It's one of those things of that in terms of the Civil War is that a lot of their education doesn't teach them that. Yeah, you kind of it was either you or the French, and we kind of wanted to kill the French.
Yeah, he also had a king that was burning. His brain was burning down through syphilis. The reason it was called the Madness of King George.
Taxes, everything.
We had so many deaths to so many wars. I mean, America was meant to be our the money maker. It had all these resources that were gonna then bring back to the UK, and then it was going to be this big thing. I mean, if it stayed that way, I could easily have seen the whole of England's capital move in there. That would have been, I think, the Queen and everything would be run from America, which would be very strange to have seen.
The world would be very different today. If they had changed their choice and decided just crush the rebellion, the French can wait, it would have been oh dear God.
The thing is that they then did the one thing that can't ever truly be forgiven by any true Englishman or woman,
which is
they put all that tea in salt water. It couldn't even be salvaged.
I know.
Salt water, bastards. So yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make a move because it's late.
I think we should end this session here. I will bid adieu to anyone who is unfortunately watching. Jax, you want to say goodbye?
I will say goodbye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, mon ami.
We're using French, despite being English and hating the French. We don't hate you, French people, for real. It's just the old English joke. Like you always hate us.
I